Hello, and you're very welcome to the JMac podcast. And of course, the podcast is brought to you by Peninsula Sports. Check out their Black Friday sale where they're 20% off on compression socks, grip tech socks, quart socks, half socks, and PS gloves. And of course, they're 15% off on Cargill and Lightning grip uh, grips for the hurls. And of course, the socks and gloves used and approved by top GA stars around the country. So check out Peninsula Sports for all your gear needs. And today I'm joined by Limerick footballer Iain Corbett to talk about Limerick's 2022 season. Obviously, the club scene at the minute and all a bit of cracking, all a bit of banter for the next while. Iain, how are you keeping?
Very good, John. Thanks for the invite. Finally got to get it done after a few reschedulings.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. That's probably on my behalf and maybe your behalf, but yeah,
A
it's
bit of both,
life's busy. Life's busy. It's coming up to that time of year, my man. But how's life? How's things with you?
Yeah, all good now. Like I was saying, looking forward to the weekend now. Still playing club football this time of the year, so I suppose it's good to be playing this time of year. It means the club is going well. So just looking forward to Sunday now.
Fantastic stuff, fantastic stuff. And I suppose we were kind of talking off air, and I was probably making points to maybe some people probably in recent weeks about, like, I suppose the length maybe of the GA season. Obviously, it's a sign of a successful club team, even your county kind of going into like the end of the summer or whatever. But I suppose and we were maybe talking off air a bit. I suppose what was your kind of your take on maybe the longevity of this season, because realistically it's going to be starting now in about a month and a half time.
Yeah, I suppose just after Christmas you'll be starting into the pre-season competitions, your McGrath Cup and all that. Yeah, look, football's all year round now, kind of. In Limerick, we kind of have larger club groups. You're guaranteed 5 games. So that probably brings its own pressure in terms of games and scheduling. So we actually went back before August. We were back maybe 2 or 3 weeks after we lost to Cork. We had our first round of championship. And I suppose, so no real break, but I suppose good to be still playing football.
Yeah, it's a terrific time of year to be still kind of tipping away and playing a bit. And I suppose you're enjoying the kind of maybe the training in like the likes of November. Obviously, like I keep saying, it's a great time of the year to be playing football. So, I suppose you're enjoying that aspect of it.
Yeah, like I suppose the positives kind of is the bond you build after the county final. You get to know a few of the younger lads maybe a bit better, and you're one of 3 or 4 clubs that are left training in the county. There is great camaraderie. We don't have lights at home, so we're traveling together to different pitches around the county for training. I suppose the downside then is the weather. It's not always ideal, but I suppose the positives outweigh the negatives.
They absolutely do, and they absolutely do. I suppose, are you enjoying the kind of the club games at the minute? Obviously, there is so much happening up in Ulster. It's really kind of coming to the tick and tin of action now. And you've Kilcoo against, is it Enniskillen this weekend, and then you've who's the other, Carrigan against the Glen of Derry. Yeah. So it's really kind of coming into the take and trust of Championship club football.
Yeah, like up in Ulster, I suppose everyone is kind of aiming off for Kilcoo and Glen probably to meet each other in the Ulster final. But I suppose there's 2 other teams that will have a big bearing and say on that. Yeah, look, I suppose there's always great stories coming from the provincial scene, from the club scene. Like you hear of fellas maybe in their late 40s still playing or playing with a nephew. There's always a few stories as the club season develops, and it's always great to see.
No, absolutely. I suppose kind of we're really kind of seeing the quality really kind of coming through in the kind of championship. So, like, and obviously we seen Kilmacud playing last weekend, and I suppose never really probably got out of maybe 3rd or 4th gear to a degree, and obviously maybe Shane Walsh probably whipped off in the 47th minute, I suppose, off that game, and I suppose the Downs obviously had a good win as well. So, like, I suppose early runnings maybe for Leinster, but who would you be looking at? Maybe All Ireland contenders.
Kilcoo are probably the standout. Kilcoo and Kilmacud, 2 teams in the final last year. They're probably the benchmark, I'd imagine. The Glen up in Derry, I think they lost an extra time last year to the Glen, or very narrowly anyway. Kilmacud, Mike Cullen then probably in Galway are looking strong. Munster's probably a bit more wide open. Clonmel have won Munster before. None of the rest of us have won it before. So I suppose in terms of favourites, you're probably looking up north and at Kilmacud.
Yeah, no, Killian Cutter seriously impressed with the minute. It's good to see the likes of Shane Walsh kind of, suppose, getting the real grips with the team. He's playing some really excellent football at the minute. I suppose obviously in the 2022 season for the Limerick footballers, obviously getting up to Division Two, and obviously in the last couple of months, obviously Billy Lee had to step aside from his role as the Limerick senior football manager. But I suppose overall, were you pleased with Limerick's 2022 year?
Yeah, definitely. Like, we're only up in Division 3 2 years, and the year previously was the year they did the North and South, so we kind of didn't get a real feel for it. Like, from that year previously, we got beat by Derry in the semi-final, who, to be realistic, were probably a step above Division 3. So we were quietly confident that we'd be right up around the top. Maybe outside of Limerick, people kind of mightn't have seen us as challengers. But it was great to get up and play Division 2, and the way it's kind of gone now, there's some great games to look forward to next year.
Absolutely. I suppose obviously, competing in Division 3, and obviously Calvin ourselves, so we'll have to play in Division 3 next year and hopefully get promoted from it. But teams are always kind of coming up and teams are coming down, and so year after year it's getting tougher and tougher. Dubs are going to be in Division 2 next year. Kind of just goes to show what the league's been like in recent years. And obviously the point is always, league is the best competition, and we're still, the GA as a whole, probably not going with that as a format maybe for the championship. That's obviously going to be a discussion maybe for another day. But the league, like, it's a seriously good competitive competition, and one Limerick really enjoy.
Yeah, and like, just going on Cavan, like the year they got relegated, like Wicklow beat them, like which was probably a bit of a shock. But like, it just really shows, if you're not at it, when teams are kind of playing at the same level, if you're not at it, or maybe if you're down a few bodies due to injuries and stuff, anyone can beat anyone. The way it is graded, that the league is, I suppose, you're playing teams that are at your level and everyone thinks they have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose the year overall, I suppose, Ian, obviously, with getting kind of cracking with the league, like, were you happy, obviously, getting promoted? Like, it built serious morale amongst the team. It looked like yours and Chris were waving. Probably Limerick really were the story, probably, off the league in the 2022 season, Ian. So, it was probably a very enjoyable league campaign overall for you.
Yeah, definitely. And that went forward, obviously, to championship then, and we had a relatively good championship. Like, we got to our first Munster final in 13 years since 2010. So everyone playing, it was their first involvement in a Munster final. Look, we came up a good bit short against Kerry, like, but I suppose that's the difference between All-Ireland contenders and maybe a Division 3 or 2 team. They can do that. We probably didn't perform to our best on the day, but look, it was a good experience to get them once the final, and then against Cork, just came out the wrong side of a good game. I think we lost by 2 points. A game we definitely could have won, but it was definitely a positive championship league kind of for Limerick football as a whole. It was a positive year.
And I suppose, obviously, like, how enjoyable all is that, like, when you're playing your trade in Division 3, and obviously going for a promotion, like how enjoyable is each game each week when you know you have a genuine chance? Whereas I suppose when you go into the championship, obviously, you came up against Kerry, they did, of course, win the All-Ireland. So I suppose when you're in the league campaigns, kind of getting else, you need to enjoy it, you need to cherish it, because I suppose when it does come around to championship time, you're meeting teams of a very high level, and sometimes that can, I wouldn't, potentially maybe demotivate you a bit.
Yeah, like, it's a tricky one. Look, you have to be positive. Like, going into the Munster final, we're going back there to win the game. But like, if we play Kerry, I don't know, 10 times, would we win one game? Possibly, maybe not. It is difficult, but look, that's why you play football. You want to push yourself, and by playing the better teams more often, that's how you do improve the team. That's why the league is so important. Next year, we're stepping up to Division 2 against teams that are probably historically better than us anyway. So if we can stay at that level, that'll bring on Limerick football, and for the next generation coming through and young lads coming through, they'll be playing at that level, and that'll be the standard that's set for them.
Absolutely. I suppose it's great. Obviously, you've been part and parcel of the Limerick panel for the last couple of years, and obviously to the present day itself. And so I suppose, like, it's great to see. Obviously Limerick is a really I suppose football on hurling, is really kind of coming through now. So it's great to see a strong, good footballing team. So look, suppose, how proud does it make you feel, and how good of a feeling it is to see the football really suppose climbing trees.
Yeah, like, look, Limerick is a hurling predominantly county, but it's kind of funny, when the hurlers got on the crest of the wave, it's kind of in line with our kind of recent. We got promoted from Division 4 in 19, and kind of the last 2 or 3 years have been relatively positive. But Limerick, look, it's a massive sporting county. There's massive numbers behind us in terms of supporters and stuff. So look, winning's a lot more enjoyable. It can be tough if you're kind of in a rut of form, either personally or as a collective, the team. Training obviously is a lot more difficult. It's a lot more enjoyable to be going training every week when you're winning games and competing at the right end of the tables.
Then I suppose, Ian, obviously like the league final against Louth this year in Croke Park, and in the last couple of weeks and months, and I've probably been fairly vocal in my views about this, but obviously for the GAA to consider maybe scrapping like the league finals, and I suppose everyone's opinion is it gives the Limericks, it gives the Louths, even gives the Cavans, gives the Tips. They're there in Croke Park, their chance to shine and get the supporters and everyone up to Croke Park. So obviously the league final itself, we can touch on that, but I suppose that decision and maybe idea that someone came up, whoever in the GAA came up with that idea a couple of months ago, even I doubt you're in support of it.
No, definitely not. Like the league finals are like, they're a big day out for definitely Division 3 and 4 players. Not being from Leinster, you get very few opportunities to play in Croke Park. If they did scrap the league final, there should be definitely some kind of way that every player, every round of the league, every team gets one game in Croke Park or something. Like, it's a shame for fellas to play 7 or 8 years of inter-county football and never get the opportunity to play in Croke Park. So I'd definitely be against league finals. Obviously, look, we're coming into fixtures and stuff. It is tight in terms of games, but fellas probably should definitely have the opportunity at least once a year to play in Croke Park.
Absolutely, and I suppose I know obviously like we see so many changes in the GAA at the minute. I know that they're trying to. A lot of people can say don't fix what I suppose it isn't broken. I suppose, Ian. So like these ideas that maybe they come up, and I know obviously like in recent weeks it went against it, and of course there will be league finals next year. But as a player, when you're kind of looking on and you're seeing the tweets, you're seeing things on Facebook or wherever you get your source of news, like, does it frustrate you because you're at the end of the day, user the guys, user the product, and we're watching you each week? Can that frustrate you at times, or do you just get on about your business?
Yeah, like it's hard to keep up with. I'm not 100% sure what the format is for next year. I know the provincials are still in place, but they're separate to the All Ireland next year. There's some kind of round robin kind of mini leagues thing coming. It's hard to stay on top of. Look, I think they're trying new things, which is positive. I think the old format of your provinces into All Ireland, bar maybe Ulster, Connacht maybe to a lesser extent, kind of smaller scale, you probably have 3 teams competing over there. I think it would gather more interest in football if there was more competitive games.
Sorry, there's the doggy. Yeah, sure. Give him. Even he's fed up with fed up with the decisions being made in Croke Park at the minute. He wants to have a say, but that's obviously that is a great point, and I suppose obviously kind of keep obviously like if there's no players, there's going to be no game, so it just kind of does. I think we have to keep looking after the players because you guys are the ones watching each week, and I suppose the league final itself, the experience of Croke Park, to get up, get play, get silverware again, and it was a good feeling.
We lost, so we got no silverware.
Actually, you get a chance at silverware. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Look, like it's a great day out. I think 2 or 3 of us had played in Croke Park in the 2013 Division 4 league final. Obviously, then when we got promoted from Division 4, there was no league finals due to COVID, so the majority of the team had missed out on that opportunity. So it was great. Look, for the players themselves, people's families, just to get up to Croke Park and watch the sons, brothers, partners play football in Croke Park, because it kind of, when it's not that common, it kind of has that nostalgia about it. It just feels different anywhere else, really.
Absolutely. I suppose like we kind of are referring to the point, like there's playing Croke Park, seeing the Limerick supporters in the Cusack stand, the Hogan stand, everywhere else. Like, does that maybe make you really proud to kind of throw on the green and white when you are playing a trade, and suppose that's stage you play for?
Yeah, like, look, you're always proud to represent your county, but I suppose it'll be when you're finished or whatever, it'll be something that you look back on, the opportunity to play in Croke Park with Limerick, with your parents, your siblings, my partner, all there watching.
Absolutely. I suppose that the game against Louth itself in the league finally, and obviously we Samuel Roy for Louth, obviously he probably had a bit of a stellar year. So I suppose what was it like to kind of come up against that Louth team, obviously managed by the likes of Horst Devlin, Mickey Hart, and obviously a very informed Sam Roy. So it was a very stiff test that day.
Yeah, it's funny, kind of Louth had lost their first 2 league games, and then we were due to play them, and it was called off. And I don't know now, I could be wrong, but I think Mickey Hart kind of put his foot down and said it's being played. So we ended up playing on AstroTurf.
Okay.
It was a bit surreal. But Louth won that game and then won the following 4 or 5 games to top the group. Yeah, like I suppose Louth were similar to ourselves. They'd kind of coming from a low ebb, and since Mickey Hart had come in, they've kind of had an upturn in fortunes. Their quality side, from watching Tyrone over the years, you're always going to struggle to break down any team run by Gareth Devlin and Mickey Hart, and we probably struggled with that at times in the game, and they got caught us for kind of a sucker punch of a goal, and they kind of pulled away maybe and won by 3 or 4, won a bit comfortably in the last 10 minutes.
Absolutely, no doubt. Just we want to get back into that kind of position around next year as well. I suppose kind of moving on to the championship itself, Iain, where you overall obviously getting to a Munster final, first time in many years for Limerick, and I suppose it was a great feeling. Obviously, Kerry, probably the juggernaut, they probably weren't going to be stopped this year. Eventual All-Ireland winners as well, Iain. So not probably the worst teams to be bet by, but look, a great experience to get back to a Munster final.
Yeah, look, I suppose we could hold our hands up and say on that day we just weren't beating Kerry. They probably had bigger things in their mind. But similar to Croke Park, like it's a great day out for Limerick football to be back involved in the Munster final after 12 or 13 years. The noughties Limerick teams would have kind of got there more regularly and were very competitive. So that's the next challenge for this group, is to kind of try and get back to another Munster final and try and bridge that gap between ourselves and Kerry that's there at the moment.
Absolutely. I suppose obviously we have seen so much debate in recent years and bridging the gap, and I know obviously like Dublin that kind of came back to it, and like there's a definitely more open playing field. More teams can win Sam Maguire. More teams can hopefully win the likes of Munster, Ulster, Connacht, and every Leinster, everything you're having yourself in at the minute. But do you feel maybe in Munster, I know obviously Kerry probably are the juggernaut at this stage, but do you feel maybe the gap is getting that bit closer?
It's hard to say. I don't know what Kerry have done. Maybe 8 of the last 10, I'd say, off the top of my mind. Tip won 1 in 2020.
Yeah.
Look, Kerry are always probably going to have a stranglehold with their tradition and the amount of numbers and the interest that is in football back there. You kind of just have to hope that improve yourselves as a team, and that maybe you'll catch them on an off day, or a few of us will play above ourselves, and you will get that lucky day. Whether it happens or not, who knows? But I suppose that's why we play and that's why we train.
Absolutely. I suppose coming up against that Kerry team, and obviously it was on live TV, so everyone would have got their eyes on it. What impressed you most against? Because obviously David Clifford wasn't playing that day, but still they looked very impressive without him.
Yeah, he was injured. I think he was injured anyway. But I think they brought on Tony Brosnan or someone instead. They just have an abundance of depth. And just the quality of how they play so fast, so direct. They're flinging balls into the forwards, but everything is sticking. And then probably where they've improved most this year is probably without the ball. From number 15 the whole way back, you weren't getting a second on the ball. They were tackling so hard, and that was probably where we struggled. It was probably a step too far compared to playing Division 3 all along to come up against what is now the best team in Ireland.
Yeah. Now the best team in Ireland, absolutely. I suppose, what kind of areas, maybe, I don't know, obviously, you're probably learning more from a defeat, I suppose, Iain. So, looking back, maybe on the Kerry game, if you maybe did watch it back, maybe maybe to get up to that standard, is it conditioning, maybe you want to improve on tactics, or is it just general quality, I suppose, Iain?
Yeah, I don't think it's conditioning, because I think from Division 1 to Division 4, teams are kind of doing the same strict conditioning. All your S&C coaches are qualified and kind of singing off the same hymn sheet. I think it's just that speed of thought and that kind of the speed and intensity of Division 1 football. None of us had experienced that. So that's where we came up short. They were able to operate at a higher level for longer at more intensity than what we could maintain or sustain.
Absolutely. I suppose, kind of coming away from the game itself, and obviously Kerry did kind of get a, I suppose, big enough victory that day. But is, I know, obviously, like, what was maybe like the dressing room maybe mood after? And obviously, of course, you will be disappointed, but was there any sort of adulation in terms of getting back to a Munster final? Was there much learnings or takings from the game, if you get me?
Yeah, like you I don't know, is focus on the positives the right term, but you kind of reflect on the journey we'd come on. Like we beat Clare in the quarterfinals, who we hadn't beat in a long time in Munster Championship. Then we went down to Thurles and beat Tip. Like, so I suppose we kind of focused on that and kind of look, we went out and had our few drinks and kind of drowned our sorrows and whatnot. And then it's back to the drawing board and kind of wait to see who you get in the draw. And it's full steam ahead. Then again, there's no point reflecting. Obviously, you reflect and you take the learnings from it. But it was just we came up against a better team, and that was the ins and outs of it.
Absolutely. I suppose Anya's kind of went to like the qualifiers. I suppose are you kind of happy with like the backdoor system, and I suppose the way the GA is kind of working that at the minute?
Yeah, I think it's good to get a second chance. There's always the opportunity that you mightn't perform on the big day, like in championship, and during COVID, to lose a game and then be gone. It is disappointing. So I think the backdoor system definitely does work. Probably you look at Ulster and stuff, if there was no backdoor, certain teams wouldn't have won All Irelands and stuff, just because you lose one game doesn't make you a bad team kind of overnight,
Yeah, no, definitely. I suppose, obviously, kind of referring back to, I think, the vote was around last November, last December, when proposal A and proposal B, and to have better structures within the GA, and obviously, I think most players probably knew what they wanted. I suppose coming away from that whole vote, and I know obviously you kind of have to play what's in front of you, but coming away from the vote, do you feel maybe that was a bit of a missed chance, to better our games?
Yeah, I suppose. I know it was proposal B. I think the majority of the players wanted, but between provincial councils and stuff, it didn't come in. But look, they're changing the format kind of semi-regularly. I think eventually they will come across something that kind of works for every team. I think the Tailteann Cup is a great introduction. It gives teams a real target once they get knocked out of the Sam Maguire, and it's probably a lot more sustainable or achievable for. I think every team in the Tailteann Cup would have said, on our day, we can beat any other team in it, which probably isn't the case in the Sam Maguire. So I think through trial and error, they'll probably eventually come across the right format. Look, I don't know what the right format is either, so I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose kind of overall, Ian, and obviously we obviously seen the success of the Limerick hurlers, and last couple of years, and it's been going really well. So do you feel, I suppose, the respect levels and I suppose the interest levels are really coming towards the footballers now as well as the hurlers?
Yeah, look, I suppose the likes of the Limerick footballers probably aren't have the profile of the Limerick hurlers and stuff, but I suppose it generates a lot of interest. Every club in Limerick is playing, well, the majority are playing hurling and football. Kids are seeing Limerick hurling teams winning All Ireland, so they're going down to their GA club, and people are coming through. And I suppose for every 100 new supporters the Limerick hurlers get, if we get 20 or 30 off that, because not everyone is going to, I suppose, enjoy hurling or be good enough to play hurling for Limerick seniors. So I suppose it just benefits the county as a whole.
It absolutely does. Yeah, that absolutely does. I suppose the current state of affairs at the minute, obviously you will be playing a trade in Division 2 next year, and that'll obviously bring you on leaps and bounds. And obviously the league format, it's the most enjoyable format, and then you can move on to a fairly dour, probably championship for all counties, and that, suppose that'll be the outgoing kind of opinion on it. So I suppose when you're playing in the league against teams of a similar standard off you, and then, as we probably said earlier on in the conversation, you come up the championship, nearly God knows who you get, but you've a fair idea who you will get.
Yeah.
The mindset towards all that?
Yeah, I suppose when you're playing the league, it's just the time of year. It's miserable. February, March, they have been pretty bad months the last few years. And you're playing against teams and you're saying this is very competitive. You'd love to be playing that game maybe 2 months down the line, the first week in May.
Yeah.
But look, I suppose you take it on its merits. Look, the league is there to build for the championship. If we're flat out in the league and we go well in the league, you don't want to peak too early, as we've seen teams do in hurling and football, maybe put too much emphasis in the league and have a good campaign, but ultimately your season finishes with championship, and that's how you reflect on the year as a whole, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose I suppose the season as it was, obviously Kerry coming out in the top as 2022 All Ireland winners against a fairly strong Galway team. So I suppose Kerry, David Clifford, he's getting every accolade going at the minute. He's basically completed football at the age of 23. Very impressive going. So I suppose your thoughts on the current state of affairs?
Yeah, look, I think it's in a good place. Obviously Dublin were unbelievable, probably the best team ever. I don't think that can be debated. Maybe people from Kerry might debate that possibly, but I think Dublin have regressed a small bit. Their first 15 is still unbelievably strong, but maybe the strength and depth with retirements and stuff isn't what it was. And I think other teams are really pushing that boundaries. It's a lot more open than it has been since 2015, 2016. There's probably up to 8 teams that are saying we really, really have a chance of winning All Ireland.
Yeah, no, the gap. He wants to say as well. He wants to say as well. No, good stuff. And I suppose, the gap is definitely closing. It goes to show small margins. When the likes of Dublin and Kerry kind of come up against each other this year, and maybe if Con was playing, the Dubs might have got over the line. That could be in the missing ingredient for the Dubs. So it goes to show small margins. Jack McCaffrey's back for Dublin. Paul Mann's back for Dublin. We see Pat Gilroy's joined the management team. So we're in for a juicy championship next year, Mr. Corbett.
Yeah, I suppose, I don't know, did the Dubs get sick of winning All Ireland's, the likes of Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion? But they probably have that hunger back in them now, so they're going to be a very dangerous animal. I actually did think if Con Callaghan played, Dublin would beat Kerry that day, but he didn't play. And look, someone else will be injured the next day. I suppose if Kerry were missing David Clifford, would they have won the All Ireland? Or if Galway were missing Shane Walsh? No one can predict the future, but it's definitely going to be entertaining over the next few months.
Absolutely. I suppose, what kind of players I know there's obviously a player that everyone's talking about these days, seems to be Mr. David Clifford, but I suppose what kind of players is grabbing your attention these days, maybe apart from David Clifford? What kind of players did you pay your few pounds to go in to see?
Look, David Clifford he's probably the marquee name now and will be for the next, I don't know, 10 years possibly. But there's so many great players. I've always enjoyed watching James McCarthy playing halfback myself. He's he's been a real driving force of that Dublin team, and I don't think he always gets the credit. Maybe the last few years he kind of has, but him, Lee Keegan, Peter Hart up in Tyrone, those kind of players are probably, when I play in a similar position, that I probably try and learn as much as possible off from watching.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose kind of in recent weeks, probably last week, I think it was reported that the likes of Lee Keegan and Oisin Mullen, might not be around for Mayo next year, and that might kind of discredit them a bit. And then obviously with the Dubs kind of getting stronger, bringing players back, obviously the form of the likes of Sean O'Shea, David Clifford, Kerry, and I suppose the outgoing opinion is we've seen, I think, the All-Star half forward line, full forward line. I suppose my opinion on it is it's so enjoyable to kind of be watching these players at the minute, because I think we should wrap up and cotton wool, give them what they want, because the soccer players get all they want. So we have some star-studded names in the game at the minute, so it's just we need to keep promoting them.
Yeah, and look, I think by and large players enjoy it. There's not too many players that step away, kind of, especially at the stronger counties, because there's probably, you're competing for All Ireland, and that's what fellas want to do. They want to all the time and effort that goes into county training. If you're not competing, maybe it's not as enjoyable. So look, I think there's a lot of class players. There's probably more coming through that we haven't even heard of. I think football's in a good place, and hopefully it'll stay going the way it is. I think teams are kind of playing a lot more positive football now, that kind of blanket defense. Now, while it's in place to a certain extent, I think teams are placing a lot more emphasis on outscoring the opposition rather than stopping the opposition scoring.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose in your experience playing county football, and obviously looking ahead to next year and the next couple of years, obviously fingers crossed you keep injury free, your enjoyment levels kind of keep at a very high standard. I suppose, is there anything at the minute you'd kind of maybe like to see the GA bring in? Are you happy with the state of affairs at the minute? Supposed to tick all the boxes, but is there anything you'd like to change or bring in?
Right, Raf, put me on the spot. I'd like to see the league played at a later stage, maybe play off the provincials at the start of the year, maybe. I don't know what way playing the league as your main competition would work towards Sam Maguire, but it would be great to have kind of 7 proper championship games, and from that, based on the league, maybe go into some kind of straight knockout championship then. I would like to see the league played when you have your pitches in good nick and good weather.
Absolutely. I suppose a couple of months ago, maybe probably a year ago, like there probably was a bit of upheaval about maybe the players' expenses and maybe like the razzmatazz around it. But I keep kind of banging the drum if I was ever a county player myself. But you just want to be looked after. You want I don't. It's hard to believe maybe that was drawn into question, because obviously you guys are giving such commitment to it 5-6 days a week. The expenses around this, that, and the other, like these little bits and pieces shouldn't really ever be questioned for the effort you guys are putting in.
Yeah, look, we're lucky enough in Limerick. The county board are extremely good to us. They do look after us. I suppose, look, so much time and commitment goes into it. There's certain things that are kind of required. You shouldn't be out of pocket representing your county, or whatever physio treatment or medical treatment you do need. Players shouldn't be out of pocket for anything like that. We're lucky in Limerick, like I said, that we have had very little issues in terms of expenses and stuff like that. But I suppose that's the GPA and the GA as a whole, kind of in charge of that. But look, money doesn't grow on trees either, unfortunately. So I suppose there's a balancing act to it. The demands are probably getting too high, maybe.
Yeah.
Cost of running an intercounty team, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's not cheap. And obviously weaker counties then mightn't have as much financial support and are maybe struggling for that balance.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was thinking. Obviously, like the comparisons between it, and I suppose obviously Iain, obviously a word on Billy Lee and the impact that he had on Limerick football the last couple of years, and what he was doing external work, which is, and obviously he had to step aside a couple of months ago, maybe due to work commitments and maybe not having time to fulfil all the needs he wants in the job. I suppose your thoughts towards Mr. Billy Lee?
Yeah, look, it's been well documented. Billy came in kind of at a stage where there was a lot of key Limerick players were kind of just starting to step away or kind of finish up their intercounty careers. And I think he was on a selection committee originally to find a new manager. I don't know, could the committee not find a manager, or did they decide Billy was the right man to do that? But he came in when there wasn't too much demand for the job, to be fair to him. And he just he was a real father figure to a lot of the lads. He's brought young lads through. And like with 2 or 3 tough years under Billy, but he stuck with it, and he was always positive, and I suppose his only interest was in Limerick football, and that kind of started to come true, and the results improved over the last few years. So look, as a panel, we're extremely thankful for the last 6 years that Billy guided us.
Yeah, I suppose Iain, like a man like the work Billy maybe has done with you as players, developing you as people, developing you as players, as you were rightly saying, maybe that father figure. So I suppose kind of men like that in the GA at the minute, obviously, I know obviously like reputation aside and everything comes with that, Iain, but men like Billy probably are hard found and hard got.
Possibly, yeah. Like, I think it's great if a county, look, it's not always possible, can have a county man over their county team. I suppose with the way it is, it's kind of a results business, but Billy always had his eye on what was coming through, or kind of the longevity of the team. He wasn't interested. I won't say he wasn't interested in results, but he kind of had the bigger picture always in mind. And I suppose what he'd always say to the players was to leave the jersey in a better place. And Billy definitely did leave the county in a better place from stepping away.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And he done sterling work, which is, and Billy Lee, we wish him the best luck for the future, of course. And I suppose Iain, kind of to wrap up, I know obviously we're only in November, so it's only kind of maybe the talk with counties kind of getting going again, but kind of maybe any early predictions maybe for the All Ireland and the provincials next year.
It's hard to look beyond Kerry or Dublin still. While we do say there's 6 or 8 teams in the mix, they are probably, if every team performed to their utmost to 100%, I think they are the 2 best teams in Ireland still. I don't know, in terms of calling it, I'd probably lean towards Dublin if they can get Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion fully fit again, Con Callahan. But I've been wrong many times before, and there'll be plenty of people in Kerry and other counties trying to prove me wrong and prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to next year already. We cannot wait for another month and a half away to go. But Iain, the very best luck with the rest of the season with your club, and the very best luck next year. And of course, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by Peninsula Sports. Check out their Black Friday sale and use their 20% off on compression socks, grip track socks, court socks, half socks, PS gloves, and then 15% off on Cargill and Lightning grips. And Peninsula Sports for all your GA gear need. Mr. Corbett, on your doggy. Thanks very much.
Take care, John. Thank you.
Cheers, sir.